Welcome back to theCUBE here at the New York Stock Exchange. This is our Redpanda Mixture of Experts series. Joining me today I have Jason Warner, CTO of Poolside. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks for having me.
So lots of exciting news around here today. We've had Alex and Tyler from Redpanda on. But before we dive into those announcements and the tech, tell me about the headline for Poolside. Where are you guys at the journey?
So Poolside, for those that aren't familiar, we're building frontier foundational AI, so think Anthropic or OpenAI type of foundation models. But we specifically focus on enterprise and knowledge work. So think the most complex workflows and workloads inside the enterprise, hardened stack with authorization, authentication, all the different things and bells and whistles that enterprises need. So they're not just kind of like grabbing raw AI from the middle of nowhere with no security boundaries.
And you've said that, this is a frontier AI company for builders, right? It feels like, to those of us watching on, that this frontier is changing all the time at rapid pace. You've had a phenomenal career, CTO GitHub, you've had a real trajectory here. Tell me, how do you think about that frontier now? Like, what's changing? Where's the focus? And where do you kind of stay? What stays the priority for you?
So you have to understand our worldview, which is that what the people at the frontier are building are essentially just intelligence on compute. And when we are able to achieve what we would say is a broad level of intelligence that approximates human level intelligence, it's going to be the most in-demand thing in the world. So you stay laser focused on building that. And what you focus on is figuring out who you want to serve with that. And we want to serve enterprises. We want to go after knowledge work. We want to think about those folks who are running the world, all their businesses, help our money transact, help our planes stay in the air. We want to make sure that they can consume that in the safest way possible. And I think when you take that viewpoint, you understand what you're trying to do.
And I guess you also think about who you want to partner with, right?
We do.
Who you want to marry up with on that journey. And you're here today, there's a big announcement with Redpanda.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about, how these two synergies collide, like how you guys and Redpanda, come together from an enterprise perspective and where you think the kind of key opportunities are.
So one of the challenges that enterprises have right now with the current generation of what's happening with artificial intelligence, particularly agentic artificial intelligence, is that there needs to be more robustness around the security aspect of things, the permissioning systems. The best way to think about what agents are is agents are extensions of your employees. And if you would give an employee access to certain database or certain data store or certain trove of secrets, an agent is likely to be useful to your organization, going to have access to that same thing. The second part of that is once they have access, they operate on that access. They can change information or they can send information outside of your security boundaries if you're consuming it. The marriage with Poolside and Redpanda is fantastic for two reasons. One is Poolside installs inside the enterprise. And we guarantee a set of things. One, if you don't want your data to leave, it never does. If you don't want Poolside to see any of your data, we never see it. And with Redpanda, we can connect to all of your internal enterprise data sources, and we can guarantee that the agents that act inside your organization just don't do something that you wouldn't approve of an employee doing. And I think that's increasingly important for all these enterprises because they really, really want to use AI, but right now they almost can't.
Yeah, it's the same old challenge that existed 20 years ago from the perspective of regulation and governance and compliance and all of those.
It's
very
all the
necessary.
boring stuff, right?
Exactly right.
It's all boring enterprise stuff, and some people can get lost in the sci-fi aspect of what artificial intelligence is. And don't get me wrong, it's amazing. But if you want that sci-fi inside your organization, you got to make it acceptable and applicable for those enterprises. That's what we do.
So talk to me a little bit about synthetic data and security, which is something that Poolside has become, I guess, known for. Like trust without touching customer data. Unpack that for me. Like, what does that mean and what kind of differentiator does that bring?
Well, the entire Poolside stack can be installed anywhere an enterprise wants. So if you want Poolside to be in an AWS environment, it can be installed there. If you want to consume Poolside behind our API, you can. But if this also means that if you want to put Poolside inside your data center or inside your air-gapped environment if you're in the government, we can put Poolside there. And so what that allows is business flexibility. And I think this is something that we've lost over the last little bit. We've asked businesses to compromise some of their principles to get access to technology. And we're saying, no, this is the biggest wave in history. businesses, you need to understand what you will and won't be willing to do with your own private data and who you want to partner with. And what we're saying to them is, we want to give you all of these superpowers, but we want to do it on your terms. We want to give it to you in a way that's acceptable to you.
And is that kind of, I guess, another iteration of what was some of the bottlenecks to the cloud strategy 10 years ago, where there was, private cloud, trusted clouds versus on-prem? Is it the same types of conversations that are kind of deciding, what can and cannot be deployed?
It's a similar evolution, because the first wave of the cloud was you basically had one large homogeneous cloud, and you must choose a service out of the large homogeneous cloud. All the clouds have evolved now to have segregated versions of themselves, air-gap versions of them. You now have federated install enclaves. So if you're a very large enterprise, you could have your own VPC, which is an extension of your physical on-prem, but it's your entire network boundary. So it's not this similar to what happened at the cloud. And in fact, I think that this is a natural evolution, because the entire cloud wave has become critical infrastructure, and all enterprises on the planet require cloud in some capacity. But the next critical infrastructure is intelligence. And unless we go and do the hard things that we learned already in this wave, we're fooling ourselves. We're going to have to do these things, and particularly for enterprises to want to consume this in a safe way.
Alex made a great point earlier around vendor lock and how no one ever got fired for buying IBM. Right? Or I think he said Oracle. I thought it was IBM, but that could be a European-American take on the analogy. But tell me a little bit about that, because I do think, especially with governments and some of the more traditional regulated enterprise, it has been a challenge that they have faced. Right? You have ended up in scenarios whereby you have been locked into what were on-prem solutions or stack solutions or operating systems. Then it became a cloud challenge. Tell me about how you think and solve for that.
So I think that what you have to do is you have to understand that APIs are APIs. And what you have to do is you have to give your customers the idea of interacting with a system that allows composability. And so when you think about, when we think about how we're building Poolside, we said if we're going to be interacting with your systems, we're always going to give you an interface into that system in which you can plop in something from Poolside or something else as well. So a good example of this is the entire Poolside stack has an API at the end of it. If you want to use our VS Code editor extension, you can for software developers. But if you wanted to use somebody else's third party, you could also call to our API endpoint. We don't care in that way. What we want to do is give you the smartest possible thing in a way that you want to consume it. So we're not trying to lock you in. What we're trying to do is give you something that you can use.
Wow, great. And like Poolside, I guess the ethos is all about collegiality and community, right? Like originally that's what this community or what this company has been built on. Tell me a little bit about, how you think about that from the perspective of what's happening in the industry right now. It feels like it's somewhat circular. You guys have this very exciting opportunity at Redpanda. How do you think about these partnerships as differentiators? Like, what do you think differentiates this partnership from some of the others we've heard of?
So I think what's happening in the industry is what we're starting to see is the DNA of the companies starting to come out. And who each of the companies is at their core will probably be expressed more and more in the next couple of years. And this goes back to the old world of the clouds again, or maybe even car manufacturers. Are you a sports car manufacturer or are you a family car manufacturer? And yes, you might have a sports car as a family car, but your DNA is the family car. Or maybe you're a truck company that also has a sedan, but you're really about the trucks. Well, the AI companies all have their own DNA. And our DNA is enterprise. So our DNA is all about what the enterprise it needs and what they consume. And that's not the same for all the other frontier AI companies. There's only 4 of them, and we're the 5th. And so there's not a lot of room for us all to overlap. Yes, we all kind of want to play in each other's spaces, but for us, it's all about the enterprises.
And talk to me a little bit about the hyperscaler ecosystem in general. I think you guys have a first-party opportunity with AWS.
Yes.
How do enterprise... I guess how does that, sit with enterprise customers, and how do you think about this broader ecosystem, and how things are playing out?
Well, I think it's a great thing for both the hyperscalers and the intelligence companies. And the intelligence companies are roughly defined as OpenAI, Anthropic, xAI, Gemini, and Poolside. Those are the 5 at that kind of level. And the hyperscalers, you would put Oracle, OCI, AWS, Azure from Microsoft, GCP from Google. And largely speaking, outside of Google, none of the hyperscalers have any models of note. And so what they have done is they become critical infrastructure from data centers or compute or ephemeral disk or all of the different things that they've known for, which is virtualization of effectively networking, memory, and storage. And the intelligence companies have partnered in some capacity with many of them, either to build out clusters to train, but more importantly, to offer the customers something that's interesting, which is the smartest possible thing on the best possible infrastructure. And it's a very good partnership. And so in our case, we're really happy with our AWS partnership, which is rather unique too. We have a first-party relationship, which they've not done very often in their history. And this means for our customers, what our customers can do, they can buy Poolside, and typically large enterprises have something on AWS called commit spend. They're committed to spending X amount of dollars per year on AWS. Well, our customers can commit, spend, retire by buying Poolside, which is fabulous, because they have the best of both worlds. They can retire their spend and they can get the best artificial intelligence in the world.
So let's talk about the competitive space you're in, right? Like AI for software dev, it's a very, very competitive space right now. How do you think about it from a talent perspective? You know, I'm sure it's we hear all the time that there's a war in talent, there's, abundance of talent. It seems to be quite a mixed narrative. You know, how are things at Poolside? Like, what it has been like for you leading teams culturally and growing teams in the space?
So I think that we're in a really privileged position at Poolside. We're one of 5 companies on the planet that has a credible chance of going after AGI in the West. And when you have that mission and that orientation, you attract the best talent in the industry. There's many people who are on that same mission for us, whether at OpenAI or Anthropic or Gemini or us or DeepMind, et cetera. But they're attracted to that mission. And I think that for us, what we've benefited from is the idea that we are industrializing the idea of model building. So many people have taken what we would call an artisanal approach to this, and it's led to some internal machinations of their company that may not be perceived in the most positive of light. What we have tried to do is we tried to industrialize this whole process as end to end to basically make it so that there is zero friction in the actual researcher's life to get their idea expressed in the model. And this is the holy grail. If you can make it so that the researcher, who are the people that we're all spending all this money on, the smartest people on the planet, can get the idea, whatever shower thought they have or experiment they want to run, all the way from their head to a running model as quickly and safely and cheaply as possible, to the researcher, that is magic. And so that's what we've done. Now the byproduct of that is that we're probably the most efficient lab in the world, but from a talent retention and attraction perspective, that's actually why we did it. We did it because we want all the brightest people in the world to say, I want to work at Poolside because they give me the best chance to having the highest impact on the race to AGI.
So tell me a little bit about some of the exciting, roadmap that this team is building. So I think we're going to see some exciting demos downstairs later on this evening. Can you share anything about what we're going to see? What excites you most about this, partnership, and what the next kind of 6 to 12 months looks like?
Sure. So what you're going to see tonight is a demo of Poolside running inside an organization, tackling a use case that you might not typically think of when you think about artificial intelligence, but we have a wide range of use cases that can be demonstrated. This one happens to be an anti-money laundering use case. So think about it from what kind of institutions would care about money movement and what would happen in that scenario and how that might work. But what we're trying to show is that artificial intelligence mostly has just kind of started, and its application to the idea, to the concept in the industry of knowledge work has really only just begun. And for us, we are dead set on helping organizations make that transition, whether they're the defense industrial base, the largest financial institutions on the planet, industrials, anybody, because anybody really cares about what their internal organization looks like now is going to have to bring in AI and help them. And we are also going to partner with them, with our forward deployed research engineers, hand in hand, helping them solve those workflows. And then in the next 6 months, what you're going to see is our models continue to advance. Our platform, which is already hardened, will have more and more data connectors, similar to what we've done with Redpanda here, as well as more off-the-shelf agents that you can just use inside your organization.
Well, I'm excited to see it. Jason, thanks so much for coming on theCUBE.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Gemma Allen, here at the New York Stock Exchange with theCUBE, connecting Silicon Valley to Wall Street. This is our Redpanda Mixture of Experts series. Thanks for watching.